Welcome back to the Bluegrass on this beautiful fall afternoon. I'm out today dressed in plaid because it's fall, and fall provides awesome dog training opportunities. Trust me guys, as fall moves in, okay, as the temperatures drop, your dog's energy level is going to go through the roof, so you need to go ahead and get out right now and start acclimating yourself and your dog to this cooler weather. Now the other thing you'll notice is that I am carrying an air rifle today, and the reason I am is because we are talking about acquiring a house dog that goes hunting sometimes, and we're also starting a series where we talk about raising a house dog that goes hunting sometimes. So I'm going to combine those two elements so I can kill two birds with one stone. Now the reason I have an air rifle instead of my shotgun is because, well, YouTube down-regulates videos where you're carrying a gun around, and I used to carry a shotgun around all the time when I was doing lab videos. YouTube would down-regulate them. Okay, that's fine. But people would also say to me, Stoney, I can't carry a shotgun where I live. I'm like, okay, well, I think in America you can still carry a BB gun or a pellet rifle. Right now, if you can't, maybe you ought to think about leaving where you live and moving over here to where Uncle Stonnie lives, right? So let's walk some dogs and talk about acquiring and raising a house dog that goes hunting sometimes. Come on, George. While I'm walking, let me clue you into what I'm doing with the air rifle. Over the next few weeks, one of these dogs, come here, Molly. One of these dogs is going to be going on a lot of big adventure training expeditions because he's an actual house dog that's going to go hunting sometimes. But only one of the dogs that are out here with me right now is that dog. And I'm going to give you the chance to kind of watch and see if you can figure out which one it is. All right, so let's go, Molly. Now, so what I have to do with the dogs that come here for house dogs that go hunting sometimes training is I have to acclimate them to the whole process of going hunting. Too often people think about hunting in terms of going hunting, but there's really, honestly, just a whole lot of getting ready to go hunting, especially for guys, because what do guys love? Guys love gear, and they love going out with their friends and taking their dogs and their gear, right? Okay, so I want these dogs to think, if they see me pick up an air rifle or a shotgun or a rifle, that something awesome is fixing to happen. And I want it to happen often enough so that the dogs are not super excited about it and hard to control. You know, a lot of times people will ask me, they'll say, hey, Stoney, what do I do when my dog gets too excited about whatever? And I'm like, well, one of the things you can do is just do it more, right? Because everything in life, the more you do it, the less exciting it is. So I pick up this air rifle and we head out back, or I pick up my shotgun and we head out back and go four-wheeler riding or go side-by-side riding or go hiking, okay? The first few times we do it, the dogs get really fired up. But after a while, they start to realize that we're not actually going and doing anything fun until they show me that they can be calm, attentive, and polite, and they demonstrate mastery of their given education level. Around here, we teach a common vocabulary, which is come, let's go, hup, easy, wait, and stay. And we expect for that vocabulary to be able to be implemented under a broad range of physical conditions, right? So in other words, I want to grab my gun and I want to know that the dogs are going to be controllable until we get out to our actual hunting or adventure area, okay? So we always come out here and we do a little bit of vocabulary work, and we do what I call exercise with small challenges work, because the vocabulary is no good if a dog can't implement the vocabulary in a wide range of physical conditions. Now, for the dogs that are here right now, they've only been here for a couple of weeks, and they're still in that stage where they see if I pick up my gun that, like, we're going out back, and they get really excited. Okay, so what I did today was I came out and I pre-fatigued the dogs. I went ahead and I rode around four-wheeler around a little bit, and I got them tired, and so now I'm gonna do my vocabulary work, and we're gonna work on getting on the four-wheeler, we're gonna work on getting in the side-by-side, and I'm not going to have quite as much energy from the dogs, but I'm going to have a lot more general compliance because they're not going to be beside themselves in anticipation of what we're going to do next. Okay, so that's kind of the preparatory part of the video. Up, up. Now let's get to the nuts and bolts. Now the first thing and the most important thing in ending up happy with a house dog that goes hunting sometimes is to acquire the right dog. Okay, and so a lot of people contact me and they talk about doing research with the dogs. Okay, here's what I want you to understand: you don't start your research with the dogs. You start your research around your dinner table. Okay, and here's what I mean about that. Like when you first start thinking about getting a dog, And it doesn't matter whether it's a dog that you plan on going hunting with, or you're going to do a protection sport with it, or you're going to go boating or hiking or whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters, or what happens is that you start to build up this fantasy in your mind where like you're gonna have all this extra time and your whole family is excited about getting a new dog and they all say they're gonna help and whatever. And you know, it just doesn't work out that way. Life gets in the way of perfect plans, right? So you have to sit down at your dinner table, get all your family around, and then make you know, an objective evaluation of your time, your environment, and each family member's willingness to commit to the process of achieving short and long range goals. You got to get that on paper. You got to get them to really commit, because every kid in the world says they'll get up early and walk the dog. Every kid in the world says they'll help you obedience train the dog. Every kid in the world says they'll help you do your dummy training, okay? Because it looks really fun on YouTube. Okay, but they're not cold, they're not hungry, they're not having to miss a football game, they're not having to, you know, miss doing their homework, because it's all fantasy. So you sit by in your kitchen table and you know, get with your wife, get with your kids, and say, look, let's really put a pencil to this. How much time per week do we have to dedicate to this process? And that's where you start off in the acquisition phase of getting a house dog that will go hunting sometimes. So I'll get another dog and we'll talk about the next part. All right, so now we'll walk George. Now, so if your first step in terms of acquiring a house dog that goes hunting sometimes is to sit down with your family and get an objective overview of what each family member's commitment level is, to get an objective overview of your access to the proper environments to do your training, and to also be honest about how much time you're actually going to have this year to go hunting, right? Now, the second step is to start actually researching breeders. Okay, and here's why I have you do the first step first. It's because most time, and I mean, I see this in my emails all the time. Most of the time people do dog research. They kind of see a picture of a dog or a video of a dog and they think they like that dog and they start asking around. They're like, let's just take Labrador retrievers for example. They start asking their friends. They're like, you know, I want to start waterfowl hunting. Where would I get a good or the best, the best Labrador retriever? And so their friend says, well, you know, I mean, I know a breeder and he's got really good dogs. And you're like, hey, thanks for the recommendation. So you contact the breeder and you're like, hey, I heard that you have the best Labrador retrievers. And what's the breeder going to say? He's going to say, well, you dang right, I got the best. Okay, here's the problem, guys. The best is a matter of definition, right? And very often, the best dog is not the right dog. And I'll let that sink in for a second. The best dog very often is not the right dog. Okay? So here's what I mean. You contact the breeder and you say, hey, listen, like let's just take George's breeder. So somebody calls George's breeder and they say, hey, listen, I want a house dog that goes hunting sometimes. You know, would this dog be a good hunting dog? Well, George's breeder is probably going to say, well, yeah, I think it would do great. And the reason the breeder's going to say that is because breeders are very optimistic people and they see their dogs through their own perspective, from their own perspective, right? So like to the kind of person that breeds these English Labs, they might look at a dog and so they go and maybe they go on a little hunt and the dog kind of about halfway fetches and they're like, oh, that's so amazing. It was so awesome. It was such a great experience. I can't believe the dog did it, right? And they think it's awesome, right? But you take another dog, let's see. Hey, Buddy, come here, Buddy. Come on, Buddy. Come on, come on. We'll take Buddy, for instance. Come here, Buddy. Now, the people that bred Buddy, they actually breed hunting dogs, right? And so, like, if you contacted the people that bred Buddy and you said, hey, do you have a good dog? Their definition of good dog or a good hunting dog is way different than the people that bred George, the English Labrador Retriever. Just completely different, right? So each of them think they have the best dog because they're judging what constitutes best from their own personal perspective. And when you're talking to them, they're giving you the sales pitch. And when I say they're giving you the sales pitch, I don't mean they're giving you the sales pitch like they're trying to sell you something, because dog breeders, they always lose money. They never make money, right? They're giving you the sales pitch because they honestly believe what they have is the best, and it's the way the Labrador Retriever should be bred. Every one of them. I've never met one that didn't, okay? So, you have to, when you call somebody, not ask them if they have the best ones or if they have good ones. You have to ask them if they have the type of bloodline that's going to match your short and long range goals, given your time constraints, your access to different training environments, okay, and the commitment level of your family members. So that's what you have to get your head around, is that the best is not necessarily the right one. Okay, so if you have the time to have a dog that's bred specifically to do field trial work, okay, well then a field trial breeder is going to give you a dog that's best suited for that. Okay, but if you have a dog and you work a lot and you just want a dog to go to soccer games and hang out, and you contact a field trial breeder and you ask him if he's got the best, but you don't tell him that you work 60 hours a week, your wife's going to have the dog most of the time, and the dog's going to be at soccer practice watching a ball get kicked back and forth, but it's not going to be able to chase it and fetch it, okay? How can he tell you that the dog's going to be a good fit for you? All he can tell you is that the dog he has is the best, right? If you present the breeder with a written list that encapsulates your actual daily routine, your weekly routine, your environment, and all of your family's commitment level, then that breeder can tell you, and it's not going to hurt anybody's feelings, because breeders don't want to place dogs. Come on, buddy. Breeders don't want to place dogs with people who where the dogs aren't going to fit. The breeder's going to be able to tell you whether or not his dog is the right dog for that situation. Okay, so that's the second thing. So first thing is we're going to make an objective list, short and long range goals, and then make sure that we get on paper every family's members' commitment level to helping achieve the short and long range goals. The second thing is we're going to talk to breeders, and we're going to provide the breeders with a written list of expectations, and we're going to ask the breeders if their dogs fit in with those type of expectations in those types of environments. We're not going to ask breeders if they have good dogs or if they have the best dogs, because, I mean, that's kind of rude. I mean, obviously, if they went to the trouble of breeding the dogs, then they think they're pretty good, right? Okay, so if we're going to get started off on the right foot with a breeder, then it comes from honest conversations, okay? So all of this stuff really is built on honesty. You need to be honest with yourself, you need to be honest with your family, and you need to be honest with your breeder. And if you can do that, then it's time to move on to thinking about training a dog. All right, so now I'm going to walk Rico. And out of all the dogs that are here, Rico is the one that has the best pedigree in terms of actually being a hunting dog. Okay, and when I say being a hunting dog, I'm saying being a hunting dog from the perspective of somebody that actually does a lot of hunting, and then during the off season they do a lot of training also. Because, you know, think about this, hunting season's pretty short, and then the, you know, kind of the number of days that you have off, that's even a smaller subset of the hunting season. But training days are all year long. So if you like the idea of having a hunting dog, most of the time what you're actually saying is you like everything that goes along with having a hunting dog. You like the whole training process. You want to buy all the gear, and you want to go out and hang out with your buddies, and you want to do retrieving, and you want to do like riding on the four-wheeler, and you want to shoot guns. You just want to do lots of fun stuff. Well, come on. If you want to live that lifestyle, and you have the time, and you have the proper environment, and you have the proper family support, then you're probably going to end up with a Labrador that maybe looks a little bit kind of like, well, kind of like this one. Kind of like, he doesn't look like all the other dogs that are here, right? When you watch my channel a lot, what do you see? You see a bunch of beautiful, like you know, show bred, bench bred, what they call English Labrador Retrievers, and you only see a few of these guys right here. And, you know, what I always say is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? Okay? The guys that breed dogs like you know, Molly, right? The beauty is in just the beauty. They just want them to look cute and have a big square head and be short and blocky and have a thick tail and have an awesome, super exuberant attitude. The people that breed dogs like Rico, they don't care what they look like. Not really. Now I know some of y'all are going to comment and say that's not true, but let's just be honest. They don't really care what they look like. What do they care? They care whether or not the dogs come out of the litter, come on Rico, wanting to retrieve. Just that simple, right? Like, you know, pretty is as pretty does. And that's, I get it all the time. People say, hey Stonnie, can you point me in the direction of a dog, come on Rico, of a dog that's really pretty and also is a great retrieving dog and loves loves to fetch and will work all day. No, I can't, right? And what I tell people is that Miss America don't cook eggs because she don't have to, right? That's it. That's the truth. So if you're going to get a dog and you want to really just train with them all the time, all year long, you're going to get one of these skinny ones right here because they can just go and go and go. They got a motor that doesn't quit, right? Okay. Now, here's the thing. Whether you get a dog like Rico or you get a dog like Molly or George, your initial training kind of starts out the same way. You have to pick a training system and you have to teach them basic obedience. And what do you need out of a basic obedience program? You need dogs that'll come when you call them and be still when you tell them and have good manners from your neighbor's perspective. You need dogs to start social situations off by being calm, attentive, and polite. And you need dogs that refrain from behavior that's dangerous, destructive, rude. Once you get that though, then you got to start in adding all the, the hunting situation specific socialization, right? So we just walk the dog and, my small challenges course is just kind of a little snapshot of what dogs run into in the real world, but hunting dogs run into more specific things, right? So we have to come over here, come on, we have to come over here and we have to start introducing boats, right? Okay, so if you're gonna, make time to do obedience training with your dog, and he's going to be a hunting dog, then you also have to make time to acclimate him to boats. And we're fixing to go over here in a second, and we're going to acclimate dogs to ATVs. We're in side-by-side, and trailers, and trucks, and shotgun patterning, and just, all the other stuff that's involved in going hunting. Because out of all the time that you spend hunting, it's only this much time. Everything else is this much, just living with the dog, walking them, letting them potty, taking them to the vet, taking them to the soccer games, take them riding in your truck, getting all your decoys together, getting your boat serviced. You're having a hunting dog. Even if you have a hunting dog, most of your life is the same as if you have a dog that never goes hunting. You just do all the initial training the same, and then you start adding in little separate things, which is what we're going to do right now. Okay, so here in a second, we're going to go work on getting on the ATV and getting into side-by-side and acclimating the dogs to being on the trailer while we load the equipment and all that stuff. But before we go down there, I want to kind of talk about what we're going to be talking about in a future video is, like, if we, people make, like, things real complicated. All right, but ultimately, if you have a dog and like they'll just pick things up and hand them to you, like this is something that you can practice all the time around your house. Just dogs picking things up and handing them to you, And if you kind of start putting this into your daily routine with your house dog that goes hunting sometimes, then it goes a long way towards whatever formal training you're going to do when you're actually at your your training spot or you're out doing your training exercises, okay? So the main thing is you want to incorporate your training in all aspects of your life. Now I'm out here working dogs, so while I'm working dogs, these guys have to kind of sit over here and wait patiently, okay? Now I could have had them put up in a pen, but then they wouldn't have been learning anything. So always here we work from boring to more fun. And so these guys had to come out and they had to do something really boring, which was set on these tires while I talked to you guys and worked these young dogs. And then they have to show me that they're willing to pick something up and hand it to me, or take something if I hand it to them, right? Now, after doing all that boring stuff, then we can let them up and they can go do what they want to do, and they'll probably just kind of go smelling around, because I have a female in heat here right now. And then whenever I break out the retrieving items, they'll show back up. Okay, but that's just a little side note to let you know that all the time your training should be going on. So whenever you're doing your work, whatever kind of work you're doing, integrate your dogs into those activities, and that's going to really go a long way towards those times when you're in the blind or you're in the pit and you're talking to your buddies, or you're having to go back to the truck for something, or you're having to fool with the decoys, and the dog's being able to wait patiently. All right, so okay guys. So now we'll go down here and we'll start seeing what George is doing, and then we'll work on getting on the side-by-side and the ATV. All right, so now as we head over here to see what George is doing, again, we're getting, we're trying to stick with this concept of total integration, right? Okay, George has to do some shotgun patterning. And so he's over here putting targets up on a target stand. He has his shotgun out. And I come out here and I look and see what he's doing. Okay, George, that's good. I come out and see what George is doing. And he's got a couple of squirrel targets up here, and he's got a coyote target. Okay, and so that kind of lets me know what he's planning on doing over the course of the next few weeks. Killing squirrels and coyotes, I guess, right? So I come out here by my target stand. I have my air rifle. Now this is what you can do right in your yard, okay? I know you can't shoot shotguns and rifles in your yard. You can shoot a pellet gun, I'm sure, right? So you come out, you set you some targets up, and you use your pellet rifle, okay? Now that doesn't sound exactly, look, can you see him, cameraman? Look, that doesn't sound exactly like, exactly like a shotgun, but the concept is right, This thing is out from the dog's perspective, and when this thing makes noise, things fall out of the sky and they need to look for it. All right, so it's really a pretty simple concept. Always, always, always try to multitask. Multitasking is the key to successful training. All right, so George is back on up there. So George is out here, he's putting up his targets, and so I come out here, I walk over here, I shoot the pellet rifle. The older dogs get excited and run around, and so the younger dogs are like, well, I don't know what that is, but it must be cool because everybody's excited, right? So then we're gonna go up here and we'll train them a little bit, and then we'll make them stay, and when we make them stay, I'll let George pattern the shotgun so that we're getting noise desensitization out of the way, we're getting shotgun patterning out of the way, right? And we're creating a pattern whereby the dogs understand that even in super exciting situations, they have to learn to be calm, attentive, and polite if they want to tag along. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the specifics of acclimating your dog to the activities surrounding hunting. And I keep kind of coming back to that point of acclimation, desensitization, proper early training. And the reason I do is because the one thing all hunting experiences, all hunting trips have in common is that they don't last long enough, okay? You spend all year preparing, but the actual hunting trip is over before you know it. And you don't want the dogs to do anything that gets in the way of enjoying that hunting trip for yourself or anyone else. So what do we know is going to be involved in almost every hunting trip? Well, you're going to have to get all your gear. You're going to have to be able to load and unload the truck. You're going to be, most people have four-wheelers and side-by-sides and boats, and you're going to be attaching them and unattaching them from the truck. Okay, you're going to be loading your four-wheeler, you're going to be unloading your four-wheeler, you're going to be loading your side-by-side, unloading your side-by-side. And so the dogs need to be familiar with all of that activity, all the noises, all the surfaces, okay? You need to be, this is pretty noisy. Let me try not to drop that on. Of course, they would all walk under there, right? But I've seen many a dog that had a good stay, and when somebody dropped the loading gate on their trailer, break a stay, and all of a sudden run 20 yards, Well, if somebody else is over there and they're loading their side-by-side and your dog runs and gets in their way, well, something bad happens. So we have to acclimate them to that. And you notice Buddy was on there and I dropped it. Right? I'm like, hey dude, think about where you're going. I try to give them these little lessons every day. I try to let them understand that the world is not perfectly safe. A big mistake that you make raising a dog is you make everything a little too safe for them when they're young. And so they never feel the urge to judge the safety of their actions. Same thing kind of happens with kids nowadays. All right, so everybody's got a side-by-side, right? Okay, now if you haven't practiced getting on the side-by-side, well, then you're going to run into trouble. Come on, look. So what I like to do is I like to have mentor dogs, so that they can get up here and get on the side-by-side, unless the other dogs know that getting on the side-by-side is probably a good thing. So look, I got a dog and she's obviously wanting to get up on the side-by-side, and George wants to get up there, but they're not sure exactly how to do it. So what do? First thing is I put the mentor dog up there. That lets the dogs know that it's a cool place to be and they would like to kind of do it with them. And then I start in helping them learn to get on the side-by-side. So maybe I'll get on the side-by-side, maybe come to the other side. And what am I going to do here? Now, me personally, I'm a big food work guy, so I like to take it slow and just kind of give them a little bit of food for making big efforts. And we'll see here in a second if maybe one or two of those dogs don't jump up. If that's not working, look, see, that doesn't seem to be working, then I will come over here and I'll give them a little bit more help. All right, you can go on, nerd. Now this dog says, hey, I know there's treats coming in place. So I'll take my treat, help the dog up here a little bit, and I just start lifting. Now the key with these kind of things right here, guys, is you help a little bit less every day. And after a while, you know, like the dog will come over here and she won't need any help at all. And you think, well, I'm done. No, you are not done. Don't go out in your garage and get your dog to get on your four-wheeler and think that you're done. Once you get them to where they'll get on there, then you got to start turning it on. And as soon as you turn it on and it starts vibrating and making a lot of noxious odors, then the dog is going to get a little bit scared. Don't judge the dog, right? Don't freak out. Like if your dog's a little bit afraid of noise, a little bit afraid of vibration, we want to find out about that at a young age. We don't want to find out about that on our hunting trip, okay? So we come over here and we turn the four-wheeler on, we let it idle, we let it rev up a little bit, and you can see as it revs up, it makes more vibration, it makes more odor, then the dog gets a little bit more nervous, okay? Here's the key. Rome was not built in a day. You do not have to completely desensitize your puppy to being on the four-wheeler in one day. So we just put them up there, we do a little bit every day. So first day, I work on getting them up there, maybe it takes 2 or 3 days. And then I start turning it on, I let the four-wheeler idle, then I start to rev it up. And then a few days later, we'll, I'll have somebody walk beside me and we'll kind of acclimate the dog to being on the four-wheeler while it's moving. And then, next thing you know, like they're off to the races. You can't get them off the four-wheeler at that point. Okay, one of the things you'll find frustrating, okay, hop up, is that dogs don't generalize very well. And so you can be working on your boat at home or your four-wheeler at home or your side-by-side at home, and you show up at the hunting spot and the dog looks at their boat or their side-by-side or their four-wheeler like they've never seen it before. They're like, what in the world do I do? So like you want to practice all this stuff a lot at home and help your dogs develop the ability to recognize patterns. And then still, when you go to a new spot, take 5 minutes and remind them of what they're supposed to do. All right, so Rico has been getting on the four-wheeler for quite a while, and I've still got to come over here and tell him that getting in the side-by-side, okay, is something that I need to happen. But since it's not built exactly like the four-wheeler, you see he's struggling with it a little bit, right? And so I just have to show him, hey, listen, we get in the side-by-side the same way that we get on the four-wheeler. Now, over time, what'll happen, again, I just say this all the time with the dog training, is that once the dogs get in the habit of doing things, the habit itself is self-reinforcing. But in the beginning stages, like you have a dog like Rico, and you'll be having a great training day with him. I mean, he's young, but you'll be having a great training day with him, and I'll just switch four-wheelers. You know, I have a Rubicon and I have a Rancher, and I ride the Rancher mostly, and like I'll just switch four-wheelers and I'll be like, hey, hop on. And he'll be like, dude, what are you talking about? I don't even know what that is. And I'm like, it's exactly the same thing as the other four-wheeler. He goes, no, it looks way different to me. So take you a few minutes, all right, whenever you get to a new spot, and remind your dog that like there are patterns in life and that he needs to start to look for patterns, because it's not going to occur to him on his own, most likely. And that's super important. So like all the stuff that we're doing in terms of this pattern training, in terms of this situational recognition, okay, it's stuff that you do all year long. And you don't have to make a concentrated effort to do it. It's just you integrate your dog into your life and you go through all the rituals of actual hunting season. And by the time hunting season rolls around, your dog understands its place in relation to these rituals. You get your shotgun, you get your gear, the dog's got to wait patiently while you load the truck, then the dog's got to get in the truck and wait patiently till you get to the spot that you're going to get all your gear out. They have to wait patiently while you get all your gear out, and then after all that waiting patiently, they finally get to do a little bit of retrieving, okay? And just people get that backwards. They get their cart before their horse, and they think about the retrieving, right? Like that's where their problems are, that's where their energy should focus, right? And they're just creating problems for themselves, because what gets in the way of good retrieving is improper situational preparation. Okay, so this was just a little, just kind of a little overview of what we do before we head out and we do the dummy launcher work, or we get in a boat in an actual river or the ponds. You know, we got to go through all this, and we do it all here at the kennel, so that the dogs have an easier time acclimating when we're out in the field, but they still, even after all this, they still need the first few minutes of every adventure to be reminded of what we're working on. And that probably holds true till they're like somewhere between 1 year and 2 years old. So be super patient and teach your dog these patterns and rituals, and you're going to be better off and the dog's going to be better off. Okay, now after all that talking, we're finally going to get to the fun stuff of training related to having a house dog that goes hunting sometimes. And that's the fetching, right? I mean, fetching is like what everybody wants. You know, I have to go through all that other stuff, guys, because like you all think you want a dog that fetches all the time until you actually have a dog that fetches all the time, and you don't have the time to fool with them. And when you have a dog that loves to retrieve and you don't give them enough exercise and you don't give them enough opportunities to retrieve, they just end up being frustrated and destructive and aggravating and causes trouble. And then you have to end up paying some guy like me a lot of money to try to help you fit a square peg into a round hole, okay? So, but if you did the stuff I told you to do up to this point, then you're not going to have that problem. You might not have a dog that fetches perfectly, but you're going to have the dog that's awesome and that you love it and you can take hunting and you can have a good time, and still it's going to look good to put on Instagram and TikTok, right? All right, so now this is the part everybody wants to get to, is the fetching. Now what you'll notice is in my pocket, I don't have retrieving dummies. Now you see me use dummies a lot. We're fixing to walk over to the field and do a little bit of dummy training. But I start off my retrieving with these little dumbbells like this because I kind of want to get the dogs in the habit of just picking up something and handing it to me. And I don't want the thing that they're picking up and handing it to me necessarily to be super fun, right? Because I need them to understand that sometimes they're going to have to do it even when like it's not the most fun. Okay, and that's the key. Always with dog training, you got to stop just chasing motivation, and you got to get to the point where you've developed habit and you and the dog both have good work ethic. So right there, that dog got a little bored. He's like, we're never doing anything fun. Come on, Rico, you can do it. And what he did was he ran over there with George, and he went to where the dummy launcher bucket is. Come on, Rico, you can do it. He went to where the dummy launcher is because chasing the dummy launcher is a lot of fun. Okay, but this is what I need him to focus on right now, is I need him to focus on just picking something up and handing it to me politely. This is what's known as an inductive retrieve, and it works perfectly with dogs that have been bred specifically to deliver to hand. Okay, this, what I'm showing you, I used to put it in my online courses, and I've kind of taken it out because so few dogs nowadays are bred to naturally deliver to hand. If you have a dog, if you did the right research and you have the right dog, okay, then you're going to end up with a dog that you can just sit around with, okay, and play these little games all day long, and it's not even going to matter where you are. We have a fun little drill that we call the chair drill. I'm going to show that to you right now. Big problem that people run into, I'll go over there, cameraman. Big problem that people run into when they're training fetch is the person gets too vested in the retrieving because they don't have a lot of experience, and they think the retrieving should always look like it looks on YouTube for professional dog trainers. Guys, professional dog trainers pick dogs that make them look good. I'm going to sit here and do this exercise with this dog. Guess why? Because this dog makes me look good. And I used to get a lot of dogs that like to fetch, and so for a long time, for a lot of years, I would put this kind of training in my online course. But then, like, I would get people and they would be trying this method with dogs that weren't bred correctly, and it only led to frustration for the dog and frustration for the handler. And that's when I really started going deep into making sure that people pick the right dog, okay? That's really the key. This exercise I'm showing you, it's only for you guys who like made an objective evaluation of your lifestyle and decided that you could buy and train a dog that comes from a long line of really, really good retrievers who naturally deliver to hand. And that's very important that you talk to your breeder about that, because there's lots of good dogs in the world that are great retrievers, but they don't naturally deliver to hand with a soft mouth. There's only a few breeders out there that produce that kind of dog, and that's the only kind of dog that is really going to be a candidate for this type of inductive retrieve. Now you might see people like doing an inductive retrieve and they'll tell you it's going to work, but notice that those people are always doing that inductive retrieve like in an apartment or in a training facility that's completely devoid of distractions. They're not doing it out where there's lots of people around, lots of noises, lots of other dogs, things like that. Okay, if you got the right dog though, this is an awesome method. Now the reason I like this method is if you'll notice that sometimes this dog like picks the dumbbell up like by the sides. Well, that's naturally uncomfortable for the dog. So over the course of time, he's going to develop a tendency towards picking the dumbbell up in the middle and distributing that weight equally in the most comfortable manner. And so it's self-correcting to start your retrieving off with a dumbbell. Very nice. I don't know if you can see that where you are. Let me turn it around a little bit, cameraman, see if we can see it a little better. Maybe you could get like right back here somewhere. Get back here so you can see his mouth, right? So watch, I'm gonna throw the dumbbell, and what I'd like to have happen is for him to pick the dumbbell up in the middle and bring it to me and hold it politely, okay? And then what I do is I like to give him a treat. And that's called an inductive retrieve because like the dog is doing it all of his own. He's driving this activity, right? So I do it with the food work in the beginning so that I can work on the precision of the delivery. So I'll usually kind of click him here and then I'll pay him. I'll take my hand back this way and I'll pay him on this side. So just kind of as a result of doing this exercise, the dogs get to where they pick things up and they carry them in the middle, well balanced. They don't chew on them. And then since they're going to get paid over there on my left side, they kind of just go over there and get on my left side. So I'm going to do, say, 3 repetitions here where I kind of stay focused on the dog. Oh my gosh, you're a very good dog. Oh my gosh, fetch. Very nice dog. You a good dog. That's 1. Okay, so I'll bring him over here. Kind of get him to sit down a little bit. Now I'm going to place that down there. Oh my gosh, you a very nice dog. Here's 2. Very nice. That time I did it without the clicker because I know a lot of you don't like the clicker. I'll do it one more time without the clicker. Now, see, so he noses it around. Nope, that's going to work. Oh my gosh, you a very good dog. Oh, you a very good dog. You a very good dog. Very nice. Okay, now, the inductive retrieve, it goes a long way towards drawing your dog's attention to the fact that sometimes they're just going to have to fetch something that it wasn't super exciting, and maybe you're not maybe you're not super engaged at that moment. Okay, but it leads to more fun, and this is what's called a trade-up retrieve. Okay, so we're going to take our dumbbells and we're going to trade 1 for 1. Now, you would want to do this in a separate session because you want to keep your retrieving sessions pretty short, 3 to 5 repetitions in the formative training time. But I'm going to do it with this dog a little bit more just because I need to make this video. So I'm going to throw 1. He's going to go get it. Just back up there, cameraman. I'll throw it to you so you're not trying to get all over the place. Very nice. Okay, well, as soon as he brings me the first one, then I throw the second one. Oh, it's a very good dog, and I stay engaged with the dog. Very nice. I throw the second one. Very nice. So in both cases, the dog is driving the results. Does that make sense? This is a little bit more fun for the dog because he's driving fun results. In the case of me trading him the retrieving for food, well, like he likes food, it's pretty interesting to him, and he'll take it, but it's a little bit boring. But what do we work on? We always work on boring to exciting. So we start off our sessions with a little bit of inductive retrieve, and then throughout the day we mix in versions of trade-up exercises where dog delivers 1 and we throw 1, delivers 1 and we throw 1. But in both cases we try to keep our rep schedule pretty low. So high set volume, low repetition volume, and it works really great to keep your mind fresh, and it keeps you from getting frustrated, but more importantly, it keeps the dog from getting frustrated, and you always leave them wanting more, so they're always looking forward to the next retrieving opportunity. Okay guys, now we're going to talk about where the inductive retrieve really starts to pay off. Now first things first, why you were sitting in a chair is so that you'd be a little bit less imposing to your dog. Big mistake everybody makes with a young dog, it kind of likes to retrieve. They throw something, tap into the dog's natural desire to chase and bite and play, but then on the way back, the person starts getting real bossy and grabby. Like as the dog's moving towards them, they're reaching, telling them let it go, out, drop it. And it just makes the game not fun. By sitting in the chair, you're a lot less imposing and more inviting to your dog, and the dog gets to drive the game, and that autonomy makes them want to keep playing. Let's go. But once you start to get them to where they will like pick things up off the ground and hand it to you, then you're really off to the races, because you can integrate a lot of retrieving drills into all your daily activities. So like we're coming up through here, I just dropped my retrieving item. Oh my gosh, what a good dog. He's a very good dog. And so I'm out on my walk and I'm just periodically dropping my retrieving item, and the dog picks it up and hands it to me, and it works out awesome. Very nice. He's a very good dog. He's a smart dog. Okay, and that begins the, what we call like a walking fetch. I can just walk around and have the dog pick things up and hand it to me. Very nice. And that's where I start to be able to get the ability to tell him to go look for something and pick it up and bring it back and hand it to me. Okay, so we'll walk Rico over here and I'll switch him out, okay, with my dog, and I'll show you what it looks like after just after a few months, I guess. Very nice. But every flat surface I come to, I'm just going to put his retrieving item down there, and then I'm going to like tell him that's awesome that he's handing it to me. Very nice. And this comes directly out of the chair drill. Oh, very nice, Rico. You're a very good dog. Now, again, let me just be honest with you. This doesn't work like if you don't have a dog that's bred to retrieve like that. Okay, but if you do have a dog that's bred to retrieve like that, okay, No Name. Like say my dog, No Name, like, he'll run over here and he'll pretty much just do anything for a chance to retrieve. So let me show you what I'm talking about. No Name, listen, he could care less about retrieving this dumbbell, right? I mean, this is probably about as low on his list of priorities for retrieving as I can find. But since he knows that, like, we have to do the boring stuff before the exciting stuff, I can tell him, I can call him over to me and I can say, hey, Lude, come over here and hold this retrieving item in your mouth and let's walk around this course. And he says, oh, are you kidding, boss? I really have to do that. But he'll do it, and he'll do it with pretty much 100% reliability. I mean, not 100%, but pretty dang good. And it doesn't come from me really like forcing him to do it. It just comes from us having a long history of the dog like having to do the boring stuff before the exciting stuff. I'm telling you guys, that inductive retrieve, it's a slow process, but when you get done with it, it's very rewarding to know that you took the long scenic approach and you accomplished the building of a reliable retriever simply through repetition and effort and, mind power, like not a lot of force in it. Well, really, there's not any force in it. It's just a whole bunch of putting dogs in situations where you kind of gradually expect a little bit more out of them, okay? It really is just about that simple. And so look, No Name does that, and he does every bit of it just because he knows that at some point we'll be done with the boring stuff, okay, and he'll go get to do the exciting stuff, right? And I know that's kind of like, you're like, Stonnie, come on, does that really work? Yeah, I mean, it really does work. If you don't believe me, then like you can go back to the videos where I was training No Name when he was a puppy, and you can watch me go through this whole process with the clicker and the targeting stick and sitting around in chairs and having him pick things up, okay? And this is where it ends up, guys. But now, again, I'm not trying to sell you anything because I don't sell it anymore, because it only works for who it works for, and that's only dogs that are bred to deliver to hand naturally. Okay, now we're going to go out in the field and we're going to work on desensitizing Rico to Gunfire and teaching him the basic elements of how a retriever launcher works. And we're going to give my old dog Henry a few repetitions because even though he's a little bit older, he still likes to get out and fetch, right? It's like the Toby Keith song, he's not as good as he once was, but he's as good once as he ever was. Well, he's a good old man and he's a good fetcher. He just can't let him fetch too much because he just gets too tired. So what do I need? Especially that first year of my dog training, I need my dog to be like calm, attentive, and polite when it's time to be calm, attentive, and polite. I need him to be energetic when it's time to be energetic. But mostly, guys, I need the dog to understand the context of the situation that we're in. As far as what I'm actually going to tell the dog, what do I really need to tell him? I need to be able to tell him to come, and I need to be able to tell him to stay. I might need to be able to tell him to go over that way a little bit, or over that way a little bit, or back that way a little bit. But for the most part, what I want out of a good hunting dog is just for the dog to get in the truck and get out of the truck like they got some sense. They just need to follow me around and look at the totality of the situation and make decisions that are appropriate to what's going on at the time. Okay, so I want you to keep your training super simple. Now, when you go out and you're going to work on your retrieving, one of the first things you want to work on is developing retrieving drive. And you want to separately develop good obedience. Then you start putting them together, and it's going to kind of start to look like this. You're going to call the dog. You want your dog to come, I like them to get in a service heel position and then wait politely, right? And then they're going to have to wait in order to engage in the retrieving. I want you to understand, though, that we need to get the dogs to where they retrieve really well, and we need to get them where they have good obedience before we start combining the two. But once those things start to converge, it's going to kind of look something like this. Okay, No Name. You should be able to call the dog, and the dog should happily run over here and get in the service heel position. Okay, that lets you know that he's like, hey, I'm with you, boss, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to wait till some birds start falling, and then I'm going to start going and getting them. Okay, now you need to be able to take your retrieving item, and you need to be able to have your dog stay there and then go get it and hand it to you when you ask him to. Okay. You do not have to practice this particular aspect of training very often when the dogs are young, okay? Just focus on your retrieving drive. You want them to have a lot of vim, a lot of vigor. You want them to be really happy about retrieving. You want them to understand the context of the situations. And then separately, you want to have really good obedience. And once you have all the drive that you want and all the obedience that you want, then you can put them together like this. Okay, but another big mistake that I see with people that try to raise house dogs that goes hunting sometimes is they work on their household obedience and it gets pretty good. Then they go out to do a hunting dog or a retrieving exercise, and they expect for the dog to mind in that new novel situation with the same level of speed and precision that it does its obedience at home. And I think that's unreasonable, and it sets you up to have a lot of bad training experiences. And then you get stressed, and when you get stressed, the dog gets stressed and all that. So I know that it's fun to watch retrieving videos where people, you know, like send dogs out and the dog comes back and jumps into service heel position. But trust me, if you just spend 1 year guaranteeing that your dog has awesome retrieving drive and awesome retrieving obedience in the different, awesome obedience in the different scenarios, then at the 1 year mark, you can really put those things together, and you're going to have just about the perfect, rough shooting dog. And that allows you to spend all the next few years 100% of your time on refining whatever specific cued behavior, like directional commands that you want. So knock your basics out, get them 100%, and then move on to the next thing. Okay, so about where you need to be is the exercise that I'm going to show you next at the 1 year mark. No. Very good dog. You're a fine animal. You're a very good dog. Very nice. Good boy. Okay. Now, listen, guys, if you have that, right, then, you're off to the races, because everybody in your family can sit around and just kind of throw the dummy for the dog and have a good time. Everybody in your family can walk your dog on a leash. You can take the dog to the soccer games. You can do everything else. But when it's time to perform, then you know that you can go out into the field. On him, heel. Tell your dog to heel. He'll jump into service heel position. He'll wait patiently, right? He'll have good attention span, he'll have good impulse control, and you'll get one good single solid retrieve. That allows you to end all your sessions on a high note. And then, like I said, you have the whole rest of the dog's life to work on whatever it is that you want in terms of fine cue discrimination with directional commands or, blind retrieves or multiple retrieves or whatever you want, okay? So set your goals reasonably, right? And then just keep putting in work till you achieve each level of goals, and then you have all your extra time to focus on achieving that next level of goals, right? It's that simple. All right, I'm going to give Henry one retrieve, and then we'll call it a day. All right, so to end the video, I thought I would give my old dog Henry a nice retrieve. And so I called him over here. And listen, Henry's been doing this kind of stuff for a lot of years. He's really gave me a lot of joy over the course of life. You can go back and watch him in other YouTube videos, and he was really just the master of jumping right into heel position and making me look like I knew what I was doing, okay? But the reality is, as Henry has gotten older, he has decided that only some of those rules apply to him anymore. Okay? Now remember earlier in the video I said that happiness with a dog comes from met expectations. Okay? Now this dog's been a great dog and he has met my expectations over the whole course of his life. But at this age, he wants me to meet his expectations a little bit. So I called him and I said, hey Henry, come over here. So he come over here and shot right past me and planted himself right there. Now he knows he's supposed to come over here and heel on my left side, okay? But what he is saying to me is, Stonnie, I've done that enough for you, right? You got to meet me in the middle. I'll get in the position I want to get in, and then you go ahead and turn so we can start this series and I can have a good time today. And like, look, he's put in a lot of work for me, and so what am I going to do? You know, I love the old dog, and so if he wants to have his way a little bit, who am I to stand in his way? Henry. So I let him run up there and I let him get that retrieving item. And what is he supposed to do? He's supposed to run back here and bring that retrieving item right to this side and wait patiently to deliver it to hand. Do you know what he's going to do though? He's going to go get that and he's going to come about right there and he's going to turn around backwards, right? And he's going to say, Stonnie, if you want this thing delivered to your hand, then you better turn around and bring your hand to me so we can do this one more time. And so, you know, who am I to argue? Like, he's an awesome dog, and like if I have to meet him in the middle at this age, I'll meet him in the middle, because my only expectations for Henry is for him to come out here and for us to bring a little bit of enjoyment to each other's day. All right, I'll see you guys next week.